and how we are going to go about today's task. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I see the energy is reducing, yet it is expected to be increasing. Today is the most important day. Actually, today is the NDC day. Let me give you a story as he's trying to put this. Do you know why we have the NDC is a mitigation strategy? It is not even an adaptation strategy. The adaptation strategy is the NAP, the National Adaptation Plan, isn't it? Today is the real NDC because you're looking about how do we reduce temperature. A reduction in temperature is the addressing the causes of what? Global warming, isn't it? So why we have the NDC as LDCs focusing on adaptation and mitigation, because I've been saying that we are adaptation first what? Country, isn't it? We contribute less to the causes of climate change. We contribute less to the greenhouse gas emission, isn't it? But we are impacted what? More even than those that are what? Are contributing to it. You have heard that narrative, yeah? That the developed world have contributed too much to greenhouse gases, isn't it? But when it comes to suffering, we suffer most because of our incapacitations in terms of technology, in terms of money, but also the know-how, isn't it? So the Paris Agreement introduced the NDC as a commitment for the country in terms of reducing greenhouse gases. What are we going to do to reduce, isn't it? But we know too, when it comes to allocating money to implement climate change, they look at more of the commitments, and the commitments are translated into the NDCs. So as developing world, we said, okay, since the money is towards NDCs more than the NAPs, which is for adaptation, we cannot afford also to put the component of what? Adaptation in NDCs, so that now we can attract adequate resources. But ideally, to address climate change is two approaches. One is mitigation. The commitments are in the NDC. Then the second one is adaptation. The commitments is in the NAPs. But when it comes to putting money, they prioritize more money in the NDCs than what? Than the NAP. So if you put your adaptation only in the NAP, then problems of getting money. So that was the politics of the LDCs to bring this. Isn't it? Now, Dr. Ira, isn't it? It is, isn't it? So now, the NDC we have been talking about, where they are going to assess us in line with the Paris Agreement, isn't it? In line with the global goal of reducing temperature, is actually on the mitigation part, isn't it? So today is the NDC. When I see your morale going down, when I'm going to talk about the NDC, the real NDC now, so I get a little bit worried. But nonetheless, I think we have to do what we have to do. So today, this is what we're going to focus on. We are going to orient ourselves into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups. Okay? When we look at this document which they have given us, but I also take note of the colleagues who are online. We are waiting for you. Some of you are online, but you're on the way coming. When you look at this document and you go to page 70 what? 120 what? 121 is where component number 3 starts from. In the soft copy, I think it is the same. Page 121 is where component number 3 starts from. It is the smallest component, I think, in this document, yet it matters a lot. So the issue is not about having too much. The issue is about having key issues, and key issues should be very clear, okay? So unlike that, in the adaptation we had about 15 sectors, here we're going to focus about this, and this is the framing by international guidance on how these NDCs have to be done. The first sector is going to be energy. In energy, we are looking at the issues of generation, issues of industrial energy use. Now, those who are working in industry here, the issues of industrial energy use are not under industry in the IPCC guidance. It is under energy. Okay? We are going to look at the issues of residential and commercial energy use. Now, those who are in the urban sector, for example, when it comes to energy use, it goes back in the framing where it belongs, isn't it? But looking at commercial and residential. Then transport energy use is not going to be in the transport, in the Ministry of Transport, isn't it? Eh? It's going to be under energy. Maybe perhaps under the Ministry of Transport, we can be following up the non-GHG measures, isn't it? But the GHG, which are reducing greenhouse gases, the categorization go back to the energy sector as it is determined under the IPCC arrangement. Okay? And we are going to be looking at the charcoal production. Okay? The charcoal production could be somewhere under use, isn't it? So now people who are going to be in that group category under energy, these are the main issues, plus others that we're going to bring on board. Okay? Now, when we say that energy group, that is the table, just get to know the composition of what it is, and then you place yourself better. Okay? So we may need people who are coming from those sectors. Specifically, we want people who are coming from the Ministry of Energy and the Ministry of Transport, isn't it? And those of the urban development can as well join that group, isn't it? Slightly, but the urban people can also spread because they also have interest in West, isn't it? So that's how it will work. Now, IPPU is industrial process and product use, isn't it? Now, the issues of cement, clinker, material substitution, etc. are going to be under that in the IPPU, isn't it? So people who are interested in that, the steel production, all that kind, they belong to that category because they also have emissions associated with them. My sister there of the building council was talking about where do we talk about material substitution, etc. in construction and so many other things. Now, in the IPCC categorization, those are found under IPPU, isn't it? So if you have interest, please join that group. Now, the big group is what we call AFORU, agriculture, forestry, and other land use, isn't it? Now, in agriculture, forestry, and other land use, there is issues to do with climate smart agriculture, livestock management, sustainable fuel, wood, isn't it? Charcoal production. Now, I'm picking it as it is in this report, but remember the other day when we were discussing, when it comes to charcoal production, maybe it might be a key issue of forestry and land management. But when it comes to the charcoal use, the usage and the emissions coming out of that, isn't it? Maybe it crossover and goes to the Ministry of Energy. But we shall try to clarify as we go on. Where do we want it? Okay, what do we mean in those interventions? I think, isn't it? Yeah? So then we place them where they belong. And the issues of forestry. But also I'm going to talk about it. When you look at this document, forestry is not given due diligence of what it deserves, isn't it? So is it a question of lacking information? I have asked the consultant to be online. Maybe he can give us additional information, but in our view, I think there is a lot missing out of forestry, isn't it? So, and even in other areas, that's why we are here. Now, waste is wastewater and solid waste, isn't it? Okay. Sometimes it may not be on the waste generated from the rural areas because those one they have a mechanism of going back into the what? into the environment. Most of them are biodegradable, isn't it? But now the key issue is about this waste in the cities, waste in urban areas. Now, that table of urban and built environment, you have interest almost when you see this, isn't it? But we should find out how this has to be featured. But there is something to do with the waste. I'm just giving an explanation of what we're going to do. Now, the short-lived climate change pollutants are completely missing in the current draft, isn't it? Now, Fred, you are going to sit, I don't know whether with Fred, and then the second person is Onyai, and the other person I don't know. But this is missing. The other person is me. Okay. That one is missing, isn't it? Yeah. But as Fred spoke about the short-lived climate change pollutants the other day when we were submitting here, some of the gases that are picked under the short-lived climate change pollutants are also serving in the GHG inventory, of which the climate change aspect is focusing on more, isn't it? So now, is it now the element of the missing gas, black carbon, and the intervention that we can do to meet that, work around something, but we want things direct in here. So that now it is not a separate thing. We are integrating somewhere in. You can introduce a small car component in there and you put certain things with facts, isn't it? It is missing. No, I also got the other thing which is missing. This one, you know this one. All of you want to see this one, eh? Oil and gas. And they're going to ask me, what about on the energy and the fuel and all that kind? Now, the oil and the gas, when it comes to the modeling, it was looking at the importation, not production from the country. Okay? The modeling was looking at the importation that we have been importing most of our oil, isn't it? Yeah? And when we import the oil here, we use it for various purposes, maybe for generators, isn't it? Maybe for the vehicles, for the motorbikes, etc., etc., etc. So you also compute depending on what is coming and what you consume from here, isn't it? Then you can be able to disaggregate that. Emissions coming out of diesel generator is this much. From the motorbike is this much. From this is this much, is it? So you're looking at the URA data versus the Ministry of Works and Transport data, and we're able to compute. But not all what is coming in here, because others are just transiting from here to Congo. That one, we don't count it for Uganda. We are not consuming it from here, isn't it? You see those trucks? That one we exclude it because it is not consumed, it's not burnt from here. So you cannot associate that emissions to Uganda, isn't it? Now, this is what has informed this part here. More of the importation, isn't it? Yeah? Now, we are going into production. Now, we have not been accounting for production because we have not been producing, isn't it? We have the refineries have been done, etc., etc. Now, some time back, I had a meeting with the PAO, the Petroleum Authority of Uganda, and they gave us a status update of where they are, isn't it? You know, when you're modeling emissions, you don't guess. It is about what you do, isn't it? So, when we had a chat with them, I'm just summarizing, we agreed that the intervention they can bring in that direction could be the non-GHG interventions that they can bring. Until when we officially start the exploration of oil, then we start to get the real data coming out of our own production, then to be able to compute emissions in that direction. But we say that now, this time around, we should not leave oil and gas. We are taking in oil and gas in the non-GHG category as a starting point. When we start to exploit the oil, exploitation of the oil, then we shall get the actual data in terms of the barrels, the metrics, and then we shall be able to compute coming from then we shall merge the imported versus what we produce, and then we shall have a complete picture of emissions coming out of the energy sector on the side of oil and gas. So now, if you have somebody coming from power, would want you to look at those things. Or we shall not do flaring because you commit yourself in some of the strategic documents, isn't it? We are going to do this and this, we are going to do this and this, kind of like reducing emissions, but we cannot be able to tell the forms of emissions right now because we are not already exploiting the oil officially, isn't it? Okay, but the power and those who are in petroleum already have strategies of how they are going to avoid emissions or minimize emissions. Now we want those strategies. Am I speaking? Are you getting what I'm trying to say? We want the strategies for reducing emissions in oil production, but we cannot attach a figure in terms of emissions because we have not have the actual values from the exploitation of the oil and gas, isn't it? That we use to compute and project emissions, but does not stop us to get these interventions that will help us to reduce, isn't it? And put them as part of the NDC, meaning that Fred, that is the short-lived climate change pollutants, and oil and gas, we move into that direction. But also there will be a plus in our NDC. Those are the new elements that we're bringing in. Oil and gas, but in this angle. But we also have what? The short-lived climate what? Pollutants as also a new element coming in. Okay? Mostly on the black carbon. All right? Because the other part of the short-lived climate change pollutants like methane, and I think nitrous oxides are already covered in the GHG. Okay. But those others are already covered in the GHG, so you cannot do double counting of this. But when you go back to the intervention, they are the same intervention going to help us to reduce, isn't it? So that's how we should take these things. Now, how do we go about this exercise? I did a quick scan of this document, and I think a lot is wanting, isn't it? So if there is a lot which is wanting, it is also important to understand that we are standing between the mitigation measures are categorized into two. The mitigation measures are categorized into two, isn't it? There is GHG measures. The GHG measures are those that, when implemented, they actually help you to avoid or reduce emissions. They are the actual measures, isn't it? The GHG measures are those that, when are implemented, they either help you to avoid or reduce emissions. When we use improved cookstoves, we are not avoiding emissions because there is some emissions associated, isn't it? Yeah? But we're reducing emissions, isn't it? Okay. When you do solar, it is emission avoidance, isn't it? Yeah? So those that we do, the actual measure that we do to reduce emissions, avoid emissions, isn't it? Or improving carbon stock, like in forestry, those are what we call the GHG measures. And those ones, we can compute them to have the mitigation potential. That once we do this, we are able to reduce this much of greenhouse gases, which can contribute to our overall reduction, isn't it? So remember when Sapero presented, I don't know if he's online. Sapero, if you are there, please let us know. He told us that you want to reduce by 33% according to this document, isn't it? Yeah? So now, those measures that are done to avoid, reduce, or increase carbon sequestration are the ones that are speaking to that target. Okay? Now, the other category is what we call the non-GHG measures. The non-GHG measures are just enablers. Now, if you want to do a policy on immobility, isn't it? Yeah? It is a good policy on immobility, but it is not that policy which reduces greenhouse gases. It is the vehicles that you introduce that are not going to consume the other fuel, isn't it? To reduce greenhouse gas, isn't it? Now, the non-GHG measures are enablers of the GHG measures to be implemented. If you want to do a policy of mitigation in nature, isn't it? A strategy of mitigation in nature, capacity building of mitigation in nature, measurement of emissions of mitigation in nature, isn't it? The measurement of emission is not a reduction of emission. It is measuring, isn't it? Whether it is increasing or reducing. No, all of those categories, we call them non-GHG measures. So when we try to look at mitigation measures, we have the GHG and non-GHG, isn't it? So feel free to bring out this. Because you can have a measure which is GHG, but without enabling policy, you can't implement it. Isn't it? you cannot implement it. So that will help us even in setting the mitigation potential for the GHG measures. So it might be missing in the documents. Also, what I saw which is missing is actually some bits of the baseline and the targets. Unlike in the adaptation component, it was very easy that we want to do this. This is the baseline, this is the target, isn't it? When it comes to mitigation, I have failed to locate this, isn't it? But that wouldn't be a big issue. But do we know exactly what we want to do? Are the interventions very clear? Are they when implement that they are going to reduce emission within these sectors, or are going to contribute to emission reductions as a non-GHG or a GHG, isn't it? So this is what we want to focus on. So don't only look at those that are going to reduce emissions, but also the non-GHG one are important. So for the non-GHG one, like what's going to be done in oil and gas, isn't it? Will also be captured under different sectors, because it is an enabler for you to implement the desired mitigation measures, which are going to reduce emissions. So I think that is also something that we need to take into consideration. Then lastly is where you see the NB. The NB, what we're going to do, though we don't have the detail here, I see it is too much summarized. It is good to first understand from page 1 what is the business as usual emissions look like, isn't it? Because it is showing in West is this much, in this is this much, isn't it? What is business as usual? I think every group have to go through this, and then how the projections are going to be. There is a thing which looks like this. Yeah? How the projections are going to be. Now, how the projections are going to be, we are to ask Tapero and the group, because here in the graph you can see, but we don't know by what magnitude, but what margin, isn't it? So this is something that we're going to follow up with the consultant, that this will have to be done. But for the meantime, we can be able to try to look at these graphs, isn't it? Before even we go to our sector, because the graphs are it's a combination of all these sectors. So if we know where the emissions are going to increase, isn't it? Then by the time we are proposing our strategies there, at least we are very much mindful of how our sector's emissions is likely to be. All right? So some of these things we have to ask Tapero to tell us. For example, if you have too much emissions, let me just do under waste. If most of the emissions are going to come from wastewater, isn't it? And not from the solid waste. And then we find that most of the interventions are for solid waste rather than for wastewater, then there is a problem there. You see what I'm trying to communicate? Now, when you go to forestry or in Aforu, then you find that most of the emissions are coming from forestry, isn't it? And a few are coming maybe from livestock, but it is the same sector, isn't it? Then we find many interventions in the livestock and just a few in the forestry sector. It puts a question to our NDC in terms of the ambition and commitment, isn't it? It means that the area which is going to bring a lot of emissions for us projected, we are giving it less attention than the areas which are producing less or projected to produce less. That's how these people verify these NDCs. So they look at certain things. That's why even when you go to the forestry, is it from deforestation or forest degradation where the emissions are coming from? So we need all that detail, which the consultant would have provided. You get it? So if the things is from deforestation, then the intervention should be towards addressing deforestation gaps. But if it's from the forest degradation, then we will see our measures moving towards addressing the issues in forest degradation, isn't it? Yeah? So that we can reduce emission. So that background is important here to be elaborated, which I see it is missing into that details to guide properly, isn't it? But in the interest of time, I think we don't need to. Let us try to think about what is it that we can do to reduce emissions within our sector, basing on what is available. So as I look for the consultant to be online all the time, in case any group has a question, we have to keep following up with them to provide clarification and other details. So I think with that, I have tried to give some bit of the context in which is going to guide us when we are reviewing this. So I have seen certain sectors having 1 or 2 interventions. It is not about having many, but is that sufficient enough to reduce the emissions projected? That is the most important, isn't it? Is that sufficient enough for you to reduce the emissions projected under your sector? Or there is something that you have to do additional, isn't it? That is the most important element. So when you dive onto that, it will be very, very important. So the other elements is about how this will be structured, but this one you can follow with the consultant. But briefly, we would want to have a clear NDC because there is that table for equity table, first assessing transparency and understanding. So if you have an economic target of reducing emission by 33% as proposed now, isn't it? It can change or it can remain. So we would want to know what will be the contribution of our sector to the 33%. What will be the contribution of each of these sectors, isn't it? And then what will be the mitigation potential if we implement those interventions within our sector? Okay? If we do rapid bus transit, isn't it? And we implement it, by what percentage is it going to reduce the emission, which is speaking to our sector? Because we've got challenges in the NDC 2.0, isn't it? It was an absolute target, and we did not compare sectors, that what will be the contribution of the sectors to the 24.7%. So reporting then becomes difficult, and tracking progress of the implementation. So these are the things that we would want the concern to explicitly elaborate in this NDC so that you have that bit of clarity. But also to help in our national circumstances in terms of the budget framework paper and resource mobilization. So this is the direction we are going in. So therefore, allow me to propose that the energy and transport group, where would you want to be? So that now we want sector leads. Where do you want to be? Energy, people, Minister of Energy. Do we have Minister of Energy? Minister of Energy. Transport has just arrived. Eh? The cars just arrived. Okay. Charles, I think you will tell us where you want your group, but this is energy and transport. I spoke to colleagues in energy. They said that they will be here. Especially those who are in clean cooking. They said that they will be here. Okay. Where is industry? Have colleagues from industry yet? No industry. Please try to look for. Stephen was here yesterday. I think he could be on the way. But we want the sectors to lead this discussion. Isn't it? Yeah? Do we have AFORU? Agriculture, forestry, wetlands. Eh? So, for you, where are you congregating? Where do you want to shout from? You want, okay, you will all go there. Isn't it? Yeah? Agriculture, forestry, and other land use. Other land use, we have also wetlands and peatlands. So you will sit there. Yours is the biggest group. And it has several subcategories. There is a crop, emissions are rising from there, isn't it? Yeah? There is from livestock, emissions are coming from there. There is from forestry, and there is from wetlands and peatlands, isn't it? That is one group. Please discuss. The biggest waste, have somebody from waste resources, national water, NEMA, isn't it? Yeah? Eh? Ministry of Water, the water quality, the water resources assessment, isn't it? Yeah? And the solid waste, it is the same, even the urban people, isn't it? Yeah? So would you want to go towards the commissioner, or you want the commissioner to come? Commissioner will go there since there are few. Thank you for being flexible. So that is the team. It is discussing solid and waste, isn't it? Yeah? And liquid, solid and liquid waste. But mind you, also your group is bigger, so you could also accommodate the shouting between this, the Aforo team and the West team. But you can position yourself. If this team, actually, I would encourage, if you can move and just go somewhere here, so that your discussion can be productive. Isn't it, yeah? Because these are big groups. If you don't mind, you can leave the chairs here, you can orient these ones here and maybe be near where, so that your group is bigger and this one is also big. Isn't it? Short-lived climate change pollutants, you will sit here and you will identify colleagues which belong to your category. Isn't it, yeah? So they will sit here. Now, we don't have people from PAL yet, but I think those who are discussing energy and transport, isn't it, yeah? We see how we look for these people and be part of this discussion. If they don't provide, we shall give them next chance next week, isn't it, to submit what they have, okay? So that is the structuring of the group work. Good, let's do that. Energy and transport, where Charles is. Energy and transport. Industry, since we don't have them, we shall bring them here when Stephen come and the group. Waste over there. Our forum team, this side. Let us start the work now.